All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, Ship It Nation YouTube station? Good morning for most out there. Don't say that too often midweek here. I'm kind of liking these little Wednesday day baseball early slates. It's kind of nice. Typically, we're probably going to get quite a few of these throughout the season here, Matt, with usually Thursday being a slower day for baseball, which is great this week, right? Because guess what? We got the Masters tomorrow. Our boys Blickel and Tambo are live right now, same time right here on this channel. So if you're here for baseball and you're also playing Masters, which I'm assuming most of us D-Gens out there are playing both, obviously Masters, my favorite golf tournament, pretty much everyone's favorite golf tournament. I obviously love it for all the nostalgia, and obviously the contests are absolutely massive. First major of the year, regardless of what people say for the quote-unquote fifth major being the Players, right? But yeah, I'm liking these early baseball, and we got 10 games on the docket here. I know it's a slower day tomorrow for baseball, but hey, like I said, Masters on. No complaints here on my front. But I'll bring you in, Matt. Excited to be back with you in the show, in the saddle here. We got a Coors Field slate. We got some crazy chalk in that game, obviously due to the hitting weather, right? Across the country, it's pretty damn cold. I mean, we're seeing 30s and 40s in some of these spots across the country, and it's not to say that Coors is insane hitting weather by any means. It's like 60 degrees out there, but it's the best just due to the altitude, right, and the elevation there. It is the best spot on the slate, and obviously you know what the Rockies pitching staff is there. So we'll obviously talk a ton about that game, but I'll bring you in, man. How's your week going? I know you had a shipper yesterday. Congrats on the early slate, a little 20 stacks in your pocket there, so you're rolling hot. We had a lot of members win big last night in the Discord, including our guy Shalhoub, shipping for 15 stacks and racking up. I think he's got like 10 mega milli tickets for the Masters this week, which is absolutely crazy. So hopefully he can parlay those in, and obviously many other members. But what's going on, brother? Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, you too, man. Happy to be on here with you. I love early baseball. One of the true gems about MLB and MLB DFS is you get multiple slates during the day and at night, like Wednesday and Thursdays often. So even tomorrow, like slower day, there's likely going to be 2-3 game slates, which will still be decently fun to play. Today we got a big boy main slate starting early. Yeah, coming off a good day yesterday. Could have been a massive day for me, man. Just the last lineup I played, I played a few Marlins, and then I couldn't decide between playing some Cubs and some Reds with them, and I obviously went with the Reds. Had I not, it would have been a pretty real big day. Obviously, really good early slate for me, so no complaints. Hoping to parlay it into a bigger day today. You mentioned parlaying those milli tickets. 10 is something. So yeah, would love to see him take down the milli if he's got 10 tickets, because that's really impressive. Yeah, man, we got big contests today. We don't have the pitch, so it's more interesting to break down. You almost wish we had like a few of the lower end guys from yesterday on today's slate, and they'd be probably the top options, but such is life. We got a different slate today. Hard to get away from the Coors game just because of the pitching there, how the other spots play out in terms of weather. But as always, there are ways to get different. Coors has not been great the first two games. I know that the Astros, scored 7 in the opening game, but they didn't really do that much from a DFS perspective. Obviously last night they did nothing, so we'll see. I like them more today than I have the past 2 nights, but ownership is certainly going to be there, so I'm interested to see if we can find some spots to get different in tournaments.
Yeah, no, you alluded to it a lot there, and I differ from you there a little bit, but we'll talk about it. It's just, I mean, we got 10 games on the slate. We got the Dodgers. We got high-powered offenses across the board that are going to go under-owned just strictly due to, quote-unquote, the matchups. But, I mean, as you alluded to, right, the pitching is not the same as it was yesterday. I don't think we'll see another slate all year where Paul Skeens is 9K and he was like 5% owned, 10% owned. Right. That just shows you how powerful the slate was yesterday. Obviously, some of the guys got there, some of them didn't. Which is just the nature of always the slate. But I mean, when you got a guy like Mizorowski who has incredible strikeout upside, and he's like, he's 10% owned, 15% owned, that just shows you how powerful that slate was and how loaded it was. And not the case here today. So we're going to talk about it. I do have some cheaper guys that I do like. Outside of the most popular guy who everyone's going to go to in one of the best hitting environments on the slate there. So we'll do our best to break it all down. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our partner SaberSim in a second. We got Hard in here. We got Scooter McGavin trying to find some of those Mega Millie tickets for the Masters. I'm in some ticket streets for the $100 Millie as well. Just last chance, right? Last chance to find some of those tickets. Gator Nation, Warren Tyler, everybody tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Matt, we're going to go 8K and above like we always do on this show here. Let me swap over the screen here, put this up like this and go like this to make it a little bigger. All right, so pitchers, 8K and above, pretty loaded. I'm going to throw out kind of the most popular guys here. You got Brian Wu up at the top, right around probably 20%. I expect that to probably drop a little bit as people are trying to slam in those Astros bats. But if they're playing Wu, they're probably pairing him up with a guy we're going to talk about later on below down in the value tier. So he's going to get a decent amount of ownership. Ragans is going to get a lot down at 8,900. That's a good price point for him. Good strikeout matchup against Cleveland. It's not the same Cleveland team of years past. There is the strikeouts in there. Obviously, that's your team. You like those guys over there. At least you know quite a bit about those guys. And then down at the bottom, right? Sonny Gray, 8K. It's like 40 degrees in Wrigley, wind blowing in. It's just I think he's chalk due to the salary and the weather. I really don't think he's going to be. I don't think people are clicking Sonny Gray. Obviously, he has strikeout, but this is not the same Sonny Gray of years past. Obviously, he came over to Boston this year there. So really hit on those three. And then any of these pivots in between, guys like Kyle Bradish, who aren't going to get played. Mackenzie Gore's not going to get played. Dylan Cease has a tough matchup. Otani has a tough matchup. But both of those guys have arguably some of the most upside on the slate. So talk to me here. What are you doing from the pitching perspective in the top range?
Yeah, the pitching is just simply put harder to break down than it was yesterday, because yesterday you could get different with guys like you mentioned, Skeens, Mizorowski. Like, you don't have that today. You hardly ever have that. It might be the only slate this year where you have that. So today, I almost feel like there isn't going to be a really chalky pitcher on this slate because no one looks great. I think Wu is the best arm, but he's 10K, and you always prefer these Seattle arms in Seattle. So I'm fine with Wu, but he's far from like a must play in my mind. I like Ragans, but Cleveland is one spot where you've got good hitting weather. It's not crazy warm here, but compared to other spots on this slate, it favors much better for hitting than other spots do. So I like Ragans. I think that he's always got high strikeout upside. You know, if you can't touch the ball, then the home run upside doesn't matter for Cleveland. So I'm in on Ragans here. Again, I don't love it, but that's the theme of this slate. I don't love anything on this slate. Cease is, you know, if not for Wu, probably the best DFS pitcher on the slate when he's got his best stuff. But man, like, if you just avoid picking on the Dodgers with pitchers all season long, you're probably going to come out ahead. And I don't really see the need to get different here with Cease. Like, especially if he's going to get some ownership, which he will, because there isn't really any good pitching options today. So if he were crazy low owned, I'd be more interested, but not if he's coming in at like, you know, 15-ish%, somewhere around there. Mackenzie Gore, Seattle has struggled against lefties. You can poke holes in all these guys. I don't really have like a particularly strong take right now, except for I'm with you on Sonny Gray. Like, all things considered, I'd rather use some of these other pitchers because I think they have more upside. But with where he's priced, with the weather, I think he looks good here. So I don't love it again, but I've said that multiple times. But I'm likely in on Gray. How do you feel?
Yeah, I just think everybody's going to be in on him. I mean, you see the dry run here. Let me go ahead and switch to projected score here instead of Saber score, just to kind of see what projections are pumping out. That gives us a kind of a good idea on who's going to get steamed, who's going to kind of moonwalk back. Shout out to our guy DJ, big guy in the sky, Masters Week out there. But yeah, right here. I mean, you see it. Sonny Gray, Grant Holmes, right? So if that's the case, and he's projected right around that mid-20s in terms of ownership, I expect that to come up because, I mean, the dude is $2,000 cheaper than the top range in Wu, Otani, and Cease. And you got the Coors Field game with a 12 total with the Astros at almost a 7 implied run total, right? So Sonny Gray allows you to get the Jordans of the world, the Jeremy Peñas of the world, the Christian Walkers coming off a home run, and play some of those Dodgers with their 4 implied run total, even going up against Dylan Cease, right? We saw Dylan Cease had it for one game, and he got absolutely shellacked the other game. That's a typical Dylan Cease performance, right? He's up and down. Obviously, if he has his game, he can strike out anyone in the league. If he doesn't, he's going to get lit up, and it's the Dodgers, right? The best offense in baseball there. So when you put the slate perspective into hands, Sonny Gray just feels like the quote-unquote safest option. And everyone, I mean, this is going to be Sonny Gray, in my opinion today, is going to be the Cam Schlittler of yesterday, right? Projected right around that 20 to 25 range, came in on almost 50% in single entry. Sonny Gray is going to be the exact same play today. Yeah, MME, he's probably going to be a 30 to 35% on. MME or single entry stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if he's 55, 60% out, just due to the nature of the pitching slate being gross. Everyone pulls up the weather. They see 50 degrees in Wrigley, wind blown in, and it's the Brewers. But if that's the case, and all of these other guys aren't going to get that kind of ownership, and it's already it's a 10-game slate, and you're telling me all I need is for these other guys that have high-quality arms to outscore a guy in Sonny Gray. I mean, if Sonny Gray goes up there and gets you 15 to 18, yeah, you'll probably take it at 8K. But, I mean, you could see these other guys outscore him there. So Sonny Gray is, quote-unquote, the cash play, the safest play on the slate. I'm just worried about him on this slate because I see what projections are pumping. I see how gross the pitching slate looks in general and how everybody wants to play Coors Field. And, well, you need some salary somewhere to play those guys. So that's the issue I have with Sonny Gray. I think he's safe. I think he's fine. He's definitely a cash game play. But in my tournaments, especially chasing these Masters tickets and chasing the top of the leaderboards, I'm probably going to be underweight on Sonny Gray. It's just the nature of the slate. It's who I'm going to take. And I like a guy, Kyle Bradish, right above him, 8,500, tons of strikeout upside. It's still the White Sox. It's not great weather there in Chicago. Obviously, at 1 o'clock game, this point of the year, it's pretty chilly. I mean, I live about 3 hours up the interstate up in Wisconsin. It's freezing cold out this morning, windy, rainy, kind of shitty. So I like Kyle Bradish. I like his strikeout ability in this White Sox lineup. If he can navigate some of those lefties in there, which like the Murakamis and the Colson Montgomerys in that, I think there's a lot of strikeouts there. So I think Kyle Bradish is a pretty sneaky play. I'm with you on Ragans. I like Ragans a ton. You looking at this Cleveland lineup, if he can navigate Kwan, Martinez, and J-Ram at the top, I mean, you got 36% K rate, 30%, 27, 27, 28. I mean, that's 6 guys over 27% K rate in that Cleveland lineup that's confirmed for Cole Ragans, who has a 41%, 42% strikeout rate last year to the right side and almost a 30% to the left side. He's got the most strikeout ability on the slate. I get it. It's fairly decent hitting weather there, but it's only like 50 degrees still. So it's not like it's crazy. So I'm in on Ragans. I like him a ton. I also like Mackenzie Gore a lot. I don't think many people are going to play him. He's definitely a little scary, but the Mariners offense really hasn't kind of come out the gate swinging. Obviously the roof is going to be open, it seems, tonight or today in Texas, which does scare me a little bit, but Mackenzie Gore, I think, has a ton of strikeout ability. So for me, it's really Gore, Ragans, Kyle Bradish are the main guys above 8K that I'm looking at. Brian Wu, I think, is fine to spend up to be contrarian, but just due to the nature of the slate, I think people see the highest priced pitcher naturally, especially the hand builders, especially the people, the golf kind of casual, not casuals, but the people that typically don't play baseball all the time, chasing those Masters tickets. They see him, they're like, oh, he's the highest priced guy. He must be he must be the best option. And I mean, he quote unquote is, but again, it's in Texas. Texas only has a 3.5 implied run total, right? So I do think more people click him. Nobody's going to click Otani. in that matchup against the Blue Jays. I just saw what Yamamoto did against the Blue Jays yesterday. Blue Jays have not been hitting the baseball at all. Naturally, it's probably going to come today against a guy like Shohei Ohtani, who didn't look great in his first start, but he still has electric stuff. He's still incredible. So if I had to pick a guy all the way up the top, I think Shohei Ohtani is going to go completely overlooked. He's got a ton of upside, and I wouldn't mind going in on a guy like Ohtani. What do you any closing thoughts here on 8K and above? Any rebuttals that I talked about here?
Yeah, for me personally, like I get points about Sonny Gray, but I'm not worried about the ownership like that. I mean, that's crazy because usually the single entry stuff is similar to like the higher dollar stuff. And Schlittler was owned. Schlittler, I always have trouble saying that, but he was only like 30%. So you're saying that he was like 50% in single entry stuff. Does have me a little bit concerned with Sonny, but I still think and personally, the stuff I'm playing, he comes in more like 30%. So I'm fine with it. Like, I don't know if I'd want to play him and Grant Holmes and the Astros in tournaments because I think that too many people are going to do that. But on his own, I think Sonny Gray is a fine play. I also don't think you have to play him by any means, especially if you think he's going to be just steamed ownership-wise. So a lot of these guys look the same. I feel like this is definitely a slate to get different at pitcher because they're projected similarly, but ownership will rise to the guys that project a little bit better. So I like the Bradish call. It's the White Sox, good pitching weather. I'm fine with it. I could definitely get on board with just using him instead of Sonny Gray. And then up top, I don't really know if I want to spend on pitching like expensive on the expensive guys, but I have no arguments about any of them. Like Ohtani certainly has massive upside. You mentioned what Yamamoto did. Cease we talked about. Wu, again, he's a really good pitcher. If this game were in Seattle, I'd like him a lot more. I think he's fine just because of what we're working with today, but I don't really love him, to your point. So, yeah, a bunch of just okay options, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just I think one of my favorite pairings on the slate is just eating the chalk and Cole Ragans and then going with a differentiator, a guy who's going to be lower owned in Kyle Bradish, and just kind of living in that low 9K range and mid 8K range, right? So I like those two obviously a ton. But there is some guys down below 8K that we can play. I'm going to throw out a couple names. Reed Detmers against that chalky Brave stack. Obviously, offense is pretty weak to come by. It is a good place to hit. It's good weather there, but Detmers does have some strikeout ability there, so I don't hate him. I'll let you talk on Cantillo. I think he's a fairly solid arm. It's just I don't love the spot there, the matchup. A couple guys I do want to throw out. Obviously, Grant Holmes is the chalk of the slate, the chalk cheap guy at 6,700. I mean, it's just due to the Angels. I get the Angels strike out a lot, but Grant Holmes hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked the same as he did last year in his first start. I think he's pretty fragile down there at 6,700, and we have guys around him. Guys like Sean Burke, I think, are fairly interested in that. The Orioles have been pretty weak out the gates, and I get it. They have a high implied run total, but they always do anytime they're on the slate, especially facing against the White Sox and that shitty bullpen behind them. So naturally, that inflates the run total a little bit there as well. So I don't hate him. Reed Nelson, I think has some talent, and he looks pretty good as a pivot off of Holmes. And then the other guy is Shane Drohan. Same pitching weather as Sonny Gray. He's a rookie. Not many people know much about him. Going to start for the Brewers. He does have strikeout ability. He has control issues at time as well. But again, he's a lefty facing Boston, where some of the better hitters hit from the left side. In that weather, 40 degrees, wind blowing in there, direct pivot, $200 more off of Grant Holmes. And then I like the guys $200 and $400 cheaper than Grant Holmes down there in Burke, Nelson, and like I said, Drohan. So talk to me about this cheaper tier. Any guys that stand out to you that I didn't mention, or any thoughts on the guys I did?
So I like the Drohan call out because I'll just, from my perspective, put it like this. I don't really like him per se, but I like that he's a direct pivot off of Holmes, who I think is pretty weak chalk. Holmes is not great. Yeah, it's the Angels. They strike out, but they also have power. I think their lineup is a little bit better than the public perceives it to be. And Holmes is just not a guy I've really been on. So just the fact that he's 200 more than Holmes and is getting no ownership and is pitching in really good pitching weather has me interested there. Like, I don't know or think he's good, but they're giving him a shot here, and he's got the same pitching weather as Sonny Gray, who's going to get ownership. I think you can make a case to use Boston bats against him, but as the pivot off of Holmes, I kind of dig it. Cantillo, I'm a big fan of his stuff. Like the price tag here at 7,300. I'm with you though. Like, for the same reason that I'm hesitant on Reagans, I'm obviously even more so on Cantillo here. You've got just not a great spot on paper against the Royals. And then again, yeah, it's not like amazing hitting weather, but from the perspective of this slate, it's better than other spots. I don't think the Guardians will hesitate to go to their bullpen here after Gavin went decently deep yesterday. Yeah, I mean, I could get on board with Cantillo because we just don't have really good options today. I think he's also a pivot off of chalky Grant Holmes, who, yeah, I mean, he's projected to be just really popular here no matter where you look. Not like insanely owned, but I could see him getting steamed just because of the price tag, expensive bats and cores. Detmers, definitely in play here. Another guy where I don't love the matchup. How do you ever love picking on the Braves? But good price tag for his strikeout upside. So kind of falls in line with a lot of these other guys. I don't have strong takes here. Aaron Nola looked really good in his debut against the Rockies and cores. I'm not really buying it, but another guy that's, I guess, in play on this slate. Really tough to narrow down pitching from my perspective, just because a lot of these guys look the same. So I will say, you mentioned at the beginning, it looks like a good multi-entry slate. I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely harder to narrow it down here. There's a lot of guys that we probably that I just unclicked that are probably going to find their way in there. And there's guys that aren't, right? That's just the way baseball goes. That's why I'm taking more account into kind of ownership outside of Cole Reagans, because I just believe in his strikeout ability, and that Guardians lineup I just don't think is very good in general. I know it's your squad there in that, but I just don't fear them. They got J-Ram. Obviously, they got a couple good hitters, but they got guys that strike out a ton, right? So I don't really buy it, but I did filter to kind of high stakes single entry to your point, and you see it right here. Grant Holmes, 41% projected ownership in terms of high stakes, smaller field stuff, which I feels right? I think the chalk pairing is going to be Reagans and Holmes, or Wu and Holmes, just because the nature of the slate, right? And then Sonny Gray is going to be kind of that second or third option there, right around that 30% range that you see. But I could see that steaming up just at 8K. More people want bats. They want salary. That $900 could matter, right? From Reagans down to Sonny Gray, but it's definitely going to be Holmes, Reagans, Sonny Gray are the three guys that are going to get played the most, in my opinion here. And yeah, they're all fine, but none of them are bulletproof. We all felt we both felt kind of mediocre on all three of those. So if those are going to be the guys getting ownership, I don't mind looking at the other guys in their ranges, like I talked about: Kyle Bradish, Mackenzie Gore, Ohtani, Drohan, Burke, Nelson. Those are kind of the guys that kind of slipping under the weather there. And then Detmers, I think has some upside. And the Braves are going to be the second most popular offense on the slate behind the Coors Field. So I don't hate it, but yeah, pitching's pretty tough to narrow down here. We did our best to kind of navigate it through, but why don't we go ahead and rank our top five, just to give the people, if we had to put a ranking, I know it's tough, but look, I'll throw it to you, Matt. Go ahead and rank your top five before we jump over to hitters.
It's a little bit tough right now because a lot of these guys are like kind of intertwined. I will say, I think I'm going to have Mackenzie Gore 1. I'll go, I like the Bradish call. Bradish 2. Then we'll go with some chalkier guys. Reagans, Sonny Gray. I guess I'll throw Holmes in there because of the price tag, even though I don't love it. And I'm clearly lower on him than the field, but he's cheap. So we'll go Holmes. But tough, man, because I feel like you could replace that 5 with a whole different 5, and I wouldn't even be that upset about it. So that's that type of slate.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll go Gore number 1 for me too. Reagan's number 2. I'm going to go Bradish 3. I'll go Burke and Nelson as pivots off of Holmes as kind of that 4 spot. And then I'll go Ohtani up in the top tier, as no one's going to click that name. And I think he has a lot of upside. Blue Jays are pretty cold right now. he should have some run support behind him there with the Dodgers offense. So those are kind of the 5 guys or 6 guys that I'm mainly looking at. But again, as things shake out, as lineups come out, and I see what the lineups like that they're facing look like, I'll make some adjustments there. Let's jump over to the Stone here. Let me go ahead and refresh so we get the most updated lineups. These are what we have here. First game, the Padres-Pirates, is not on the main slate here. So that takes us to your home. Guardians, Royals, Reagans, Cantillo on the mound. Cantillo, not crazy, but he's been solid. He's a solid pitcher. Royals don't strike out a ton, but they do have some guys in the back half that strike out there. You did say it is decent come in relative to the slate in terms of hitting here. The wind is slightly blown out. It's in the mid 50s, upper low 60s by the end of this game. 7 to 10 mile an hour winds kind of blowing out there. Not the best place to hit, but in relative to the slate, I mean, you're talking like 20 degrees warmer here than some areas on the slate, especially the next game we're going to talk about. So, any Royals, any Guardians interest here for you?
Not a ton, like a little bit because of the weather. And certainly I think it'd be more from the Royals side just because Reagans is better than Cantillo. But I think the Guardian, either spot I could get on board with just because of the weather. There's a home run boost here, and a lot of the parks it's negative for hitters. So that's the only real case I can make for it. Other than that, I don't particularly love it. Do you see it differently?
Yeah, I don't really love it. Neither of these teams really kind of cracks my top 6 or so offenses, I would say. From a bullpen perspective, both of these bullpens right now, obviously in the limited sample, are kind of middle of the road, more towards better than worse. You got Cleveland sitting down there in terms of whip at a 1.2, which is pretty solid. Kansas City, you have up towards the worst part, but again, Cole Reagans is a good arm, and they'll let him go even if he gives up a run or two, or just with his strikeout ability there. So from an offensive perspective, I don't love this game, to be honest. Michael Garcia, I think, at third base, just because third base is a pretty weak precision in general. He has some stolen base upside, so a pay up to be contrarian, or a Bobby Witt at shortstop, pay up to be contrarian. Salvi Perez at 3,900, that's a fair price point for him. He's got a ton of power, historical lefty masher, so I don't hate that. It'd be more so like minis on the Royals side, just home run hunting, power guys as like a leverage from a roster construction standpoint, with similar players from like the Astros and Braves and things like that are going to get played. Drake Baldwin's going to be played over Perez. I mean, you talk about all the Astros, right? Guys like Carlos Correa at 4,800, right, at third base. People are going to click that. $200 more. You got Michael Garcia at sub 5% ownership with power and stolen base upside. So those are kind of the main guys I'm looking at. Really not messing with the Guardians. J-Ram, if you want to be spend up to be contrarian at third base too, fits the same thing I talked about Michael Garcia, but I just like Garcia a little more. But you will get leverage on probably the chalkiest pitcher on the slate, but it's not for me. Next game, Brewers, Red Sox. Sonny Gray, I'm going to be up there in ownership. I know you liked him. This Brewers team, confirmed lineup out here, got a lot of lefties going against Sonny Gray, which is a nice spot to target. I know the weather sucks here in general, but I think this is a pretty sneaky snack, not just because I'm a Brewers fan, but I think Sonny Gray is going to come in higher than what he's at. Obviously, he is more reverse splitsy, so that instantly jumps Gary Sanchez, who's seen beach balls, right up to kind of my top of the list in terms of a power upside guy at 3,400 in that mid tier. But what do you see here? Red Sox, Brewers, not the best place to hit, but it is a good hitting park in general. The weather just sucks here. What do you see?
Yeah, I could get on board with either side because to your point, Milwaukee has a better offense than Boston, certainly at least right now, and they're facing the guy who's going to get a lot more ownership. So I'd rather pick on the Brewers pitcher than Sonny Gray, but when you throw ownership in there and the fact that the Brewers have a really good offense, I could get on board with Milwaukee. I could also get on board with Boston, though. They're facing an unknown, a guy who's struggled at the minor league level. Boston hasn't been great. I respect the Brewers bullpen. The weather's bad, so Boston isn't like my top stack, but I kind of feel like how you did about the Royals where you could mini stack them, or I guess like you could just play on, this guy just not being good and Boston getting to him, because certainly they've got a talented lineup. So I'm not sure that's where I'm going to plant my flag, but I wouldn't be shocked if Boston won the slate today just because of who they're facing and kind of bad weather spots all over the slate. Really, I could get on board with either stack here though in tournaments.
Yeah, the thing that edges the Brewers out for me is not only the ownership on Sonny Gray, but Sonny Gray's already given up 2 stolen bases on the year. Brewers lead the league in stolen bases. They were up there last year as well. He gave up 11 stolen bases last year, 25 the year before that. You can run on Sonny Gray. Brewers are going to run, especially with the hitting weather, and they're just a small ball team anyways, right? They don't have a ton of the big superstar names, the Judges, the Otanis, the Freemans, those kind of guys of baseball, right? But they have a team that all comes together. They run, they steal bases, and a single or a walk turns into 7-8 points right away with a stolen base of second, right? Those 5 points mean a lot. They run, score. Now you're looking at 10 fantasy points in one at bat with no home runs, right? Or no kind of big flies or big heroes in the lineup. So I will say that. And I do like all the lefties that they're throwing out there against Sonny Gray. I know the strikeout rate is up there for Sonny Gray against lefties. I just think this is a good spot to buy low on them, and they can get there with stolen bases. So I really like the stolen base guys. Guy like Garrett Mitchell, Sal Frelick, Yelich will run, Rengifo will run, Hamilton will run, Ortiz will run. Pretty much this whole lineup will run outside of Jake Bowers, but yeah, I think he even has a stolen base or 2 on the year already too. So I like that perspective when offense is tough to come by outside of Coors Field. I like those stolen bases that give a potential edge over the competition, and a lot of people don't. Enough people in the DraftKings lobbies don't take enough account into stolen bases, which add up a ton, right? I mean, that could be the difference of shipping the slate and not without any home runs is those stolen bases there. So I do like that perspective there. Takes us into Chicago. Burke on the mound, Kyle Bradish on the mound, 2 pitchers that I think you can play. And I also think you can play the offense in this game on both sides, but more so on the Orioles side. Obviously, that White Sox bullpen is atrocious behind Burke. They're kind of sitting right about that 1.6 whip range, right? Walks, hits per inning. For anyone who doesn't know what whip stands for, what do you see here, Orioles and White Sox?
Yeah, certainly the Orioles are in play. You've got them against the White Sox. Basically, insert whoever's starting for them and their bullpen. Bad hitting weather. So again, they don't look that much different than like the Red Sox to me. The Brewers, even just because when you throw the ownership with Sonny Gray, another stack that I could see winning the slate, but that's hard to prioritize over some of the other stacks that look better, like Coors, etc. So Baltimore, I like their lineup. They were real good for me yesterday. Blaze Alexander, no one played him at the bottom of the lineup. So I could see going back to Baltimore, but they don't like stand out like a couple stacks do that we'll get to in a little bit. The Chicago side, I'm more on Bradish. I don't think Bradish is some ace. So if this were a different slate, maybe, but today I'm more on Bradish than I am the White Sox, if anything, on that side.
Yeah, the weather definitely favors the pitchers in this park. I mean, you got like 17 miles an hour wind blowing in from right center field, which obviously you want some of the lefties against both of these guys, and that wind's blowing straight in from their power zone, right? So I just think it's pretty tough for offense in this game. But and I saw no Basallo, Cowser, or Jackson, which Jackson doesn't really matter, but Cowser and Basallo do matter there. Two lefty power guys that are mid-priced in terms of salary there. So from an offensive perspective, I think the O's are interesting. Murakami, Colson Montgomery, those lefty power guys, I think are interesting, but don't love either side of that game too much. Takes us into Texas. One of the better hitting spots on the slate. The park isn't great, but I do believe the roof is going to be open here in Globe Life today. Which would make sense. It is Texas. It's not the Midwest where it's 40 degrees. Seattle, I mean, it looks like it's 80 degrees here with wind kind of blowing across the stadium. What do you see here? Mariners and Rangers. Mackenzie Gore, Brian Wu, 2 good arms on the mound. But again, offense is pretty tough to come by in general. 2 of the better bullpens too, which does hurt. But again, offense is pretty tough. I lean more pitching in this one, but any offense here?
Yeah, it's almost the opposite of what we just had, where you've got, as opposed to the bad hitting weather that we had in Chicago, now you've got really good pitchers. You've got decently good weather because it's in Texas, but you've got two of the better overall pitchers on this slate. So I'm with you. On paper, I think this game is much more about the pitching. I like Gore a lot. Woo is really good. He's a guy I very rarely pick on. But I think you could throw them into the mix of like the Royals and Guardians because of how this slate breaks down. Every stack is going to be contrarian outside of Coors. So I don't think that Gore and even Woo are infallible to getting hit. Again, I mentioned I'd much prefer most or all of these Seattle pitchers, in Seattle. They're not in Seattle here. So I don't love either stack. I probably won't get to either, but if you told me you were planting your flag on either of these, I wouldn't think it's the craziest thing in the world. I think that's the best thing I can say about either offense here. But for me, it's mostly about the pitching.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. Corey Seager, I do think is a pretty solid one-off, especially anytime he's below 5K, he's a great option. I know for all the BVP guys out there, whether you believe in it or not, I do like to just throw it in there occasionally because I know it gets the chat up and a rise there. But 6 for 9, nothing crazy. He's 6 for 9 with a pair of home runs and some walks. So he definitely sees Brian Wu pretty good. So as a nice little one-off there, and maybe a chalkier lineup. Maybe you're going with a chalkier pairing there, and you play a Corey Seager at 4,400, direct pivot off of a guy like Jeremy Pena. You save almost $1,000 there. Carlos Correa, you save $400. So I think that's pretty interesting there. Corey Seager, fine, but yeah, more on the pitching in that one. Both ranked pretty good in our pitcher rankings, top 6. So not much offense there for me, and it's going to be a common theme throughout the show. Once we get to June, July, right, August, when weather's nice, we're going to have a lot more pitching decisions to make versus offense, in my opinion, because there's going to be a lot better spots. But that's just early season baseball. That's how it goes. And that's why you see condensed ownership going to Coors Field even higher than normal. So next game on the slate, Dodgers, Blue Jays. I do think the Dodgers are fairly sneaky here. Cease is always prone to blowing up. I know he had his really good start, his last start at home in Rogers Center Dome here. But again, this Dodgers lineup is just going to be a gauntlet for any pitcher going up against them. And Cease does have blow-up potential for sure. Now looking at the Blue Jays bullpen, not been great to start the year. 1.58 walks and hits per innings pitched from the bullpen there. So any Dodgers love for you, they're flying way under the radar because the top guys are expensive, and obviously you can't play Ohtani in your stacks, but that just makes the stack more affordable. And you got guys like Alex Freeland, who's a good prospect, a good hitter down there. Ha-Seong Kim is free. He can steal bases. Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker. I mean, you still got dudes in this offense. What do you see here, Blue Jays and Dodgers?
Yeah, I really wish Cease were getting more ownership. Then I'd like the Dodgers even more. But to your point, yeah, I think they're definitely in play here. Sabre has them projected for a lot of runs. They're the Dodgers. I know they're missing Mookie, but still the best lineup in baseball, pretty unequivocally, even though there are some other good ones. The Dodgers are the best. You can't play Shohei today, but that just makes them easier to stack. So, yeah, no issues with the Dodgers. Obviously, they're a team, even when they face a really good pitcher, they're going to be in play just because they can get to anyone. They're that good. I do feel like this game is also more pitching than the Seattle-Texas game, but similar in the sense that both offenses have upside here. I'd struggle to get to Toronto against Ohtani, but we know Toronto's offense is good, and this slate is filled with mediocre spots outside of Coors. So I'm with you on your Dodgers call. I'm not sure I'll personally get there, but upside for days always.
Yeah, I think in MME, this is a good buy low spot on the Dodgers. Just when you add in, yeah, Cease is a name recognition guy, but he's so up and down start to start. And yeah, if he has his best stuff, your Dodgers aren't going to win, but hey, that's the chance I take. And a decent amount of my portfolio to these Dodger stacks, just when you add in how bad Toronto's bullpen has been to start the year as well. And you look at their last 3 days, 43 pitches, 42 pitches, 36 pitches. All 3 of those guys are likely unavailable. And then Louis Varland threw 23 yesterday, and so did Flaherty, 2 of their better bullpen arms there that were pivotal to them in that World Series runs. Both of those guys could go again, but I think you can see the Dodgers kind of get back on the well here against a Cease, and Cease is always prone to blowups. Doesn't rank very good in our pitcher rankings either, sitting at 14. Obviously, no one's going to rank really good anytime against the Dodgers here. They don't strike out and have a ton of power, right? So I think the Dodgers, with offense being so tough to come by, and I'm seeing 24% combined ownership on the Dodger stack with full 9 at bats against a quality arm to start, but not a great bullpen behind him. I'll take my chances there. George Springer does stand out to me on the Blue Jays side. I think he's fine, and Jesus Sanchez has been hitting really good right now too, but not going in stack of the Blue Jays. Dodgers bullpen's really good. Ohtani's a good arm as well and has great stuff. So takes us to everybody's favorite game. Both sides of this game are going to get a lot of ownership. The Astros are the Astros. They're in Coors Field. Obviously, they've disappointed yesterday, but I talk about free money Freeland in Coors Field all the time. That was a historical performance there by Freeland, but he does it all the time in Coors Field. Very rarely does he give up 1 or 2 home runs. He kind of just skates through, keeps the ball on the ground, and gets through it. And this Astros team just doesn't hit the ball in the air in general. It's much tougher fade here today, but I'm going to take my chances again. I'm going to be underweight on the Astros. Yordan Alvarez, Cam Smith, and Lo Perfido are going to be the 3 bats if I played anyone. I think that are interesting, but again, with so much ownership, I mean, I ran into the dry run projections, Matt, and 99% of the stacks, projections-wise, were Astro stacks. That's ridiculous. Almost 100% of 150 had Astros on it, so that's a spot that I'm willing on a 10-game slate. When I'm chasing tickets, I'm chasing first place to kind of be under the field on. But the Rockies side, even though they're getting ownership, I do like the Rockies a ton. I just don't think Javier is good. He's a fly ball guy. He doesn't have much K ability at all. The Astros bullpen has not been good in general to start the year. I talked about it. Angels lit them up. They're fairly taxed too right now. So what do you see here? Coors Field, best game environment on the slate for hitting.
Yeah, I got no issues with the take of fading or being underweight on the. Obviously, if you're playing 150, you're probably not full fading the Astros, but being underweight or fading them in single entry qualifier type stuff. But for me, it's like, that you're fading them just because of ownership, right? Like they're in the best spot on the slate. They're just going to be so mega owned with so many other good spots, and it's baseball. So I'm cool fading them. I just know that if I do that, I could easily get burned because they do have the highest upside. Like on paper, they're the best stack on the board. I don't think anyone would argue that. The Rockies also look good. They're going to be owned, but not nearly as owned as the Astros. So you gain some ownership there. Their lineup isn't as good. I do think that because of how, I don't know, part of me wants to think because of how pricey Houston is, that maybe that cuts into their ownership, but we don't have elite spend up pitching options today. So I think Houston's going to be the priority on most slates of this size. When you look at ownership, like across the board, regardless of where you look, normally it's pitchers that are the highest owned. That's not the case today. The case today is Alvarez, Altuve. Those guys are projected to be the highest owned. They're the priorities. Those are the guys that Sims are going to be spitting out. They look great, but I'm with you. I'm cool fading them and going to almost anyone else just to get different because, like you said, whether it's a qualifier, a big GPP, like getting first place is massive. So I think they look the best. I'm not saying I'm going to fade them or play them. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I get the case for either. And I do think that if you play Houston here, you want to look at getting different elsewhere.
Yeah, so just dry run projections, right? Obviously, projections don't mean a ton in baseball, but projections still drive the DFS landscape in today's and Sims and all of that. I mean, I filtered 2 Houston stacks, right? You see 146 out of 150 lineups I ran, and then you look, Grant Holmes, 60% of those, Sonny Gray, 50% of those. So right there, I mean, those 2 guys, if you want to play the Astros, pivot there. Go do like a Sean Burke, right? Instead of Reed Nelson, who's the next guy getting thrown into lineups. go to like a Sean Burke and a Cole Reagans, right? Because you have to spend up more, and then you're going to have to find some value stacks, which there's value guys on this slate, right? Pick out power hunters that are in that 3K range, or guys that can steal bases. So if you're going to play the Astros, which obviously they're the best stack on paper, doesn't mean they're going to score the most runs, or even if they do score the most amount of runs, if they don't hit a bunch of home runs and other teams get some home runs and stolen bases and things like that, they can outscore them. Kind of what happened their first time, right? The first day when the Dodgers scored 14 or whatever it was, and the Astros still scored 8 or 7 their first game in Coors and weren't needed, right? So you could see something like that. But I did want to just show what kind of projections are showing when you do filter to Astro stacks. It is going to be Holmes, Sonny Gray, Nelson, or and Reagans are the 4 pitchers. So if you pivot and the pitchers, that's what I would do if I'm going to go ahead and play the Astros. But for the most part, I'm going to be under on the Astros. It's just a stand that I'm going to take. It's worked out for me so far. Naturally, they'll go for 100 today when they're like all 25% owned. Even the guys at the back half are projecting for 20% ownership. So it's pretty ridiculous there. But yeah, Rockies, I like all the Rockies here. I just don't think Javier is good. He's more reverse splitsy. So I'd lean the righties first. Guys like Hunter Goodman, Tovar, Castro, Brenton Doyle, those guys first, but the lefties obviously are great too. And then that bullpen too has not been good to start the year. So yeah, on Coors Field, but more so definitely a lot more interest in the Rocky side of it. Next game on the slate, we have 4 games left on the main slate here. Phillies and the Giants, obviously not a great park here for hitting, but this series has yielded some runs, more so on the Giants side than the Phillies side here. From a hitting perspective, I mean, it's above average here for hitting wise. It's in the 70s. It's not in the night game out there in the West Coast. So you could look to offense in this one. Aaron Nola looked great in his last start, but I think he's declining in general as a pitcher. But if I had to pick a side, I'd much more lean the Philly side just with this talented offense. Tyler Mahle kind of skated through disaster last year for majority of the year. I just not a super believer in him. The Giants bullpen is not as good as it has been in like last season. They lost some arms there. So what do you see here? Phillies and Giants offense, again, pretty weak in general, but what do you see?
I always like the spots in like San Francisco and San Diego much more during the day than I do when they're at night. The ballpark just plays a lot better offensively. So it's not like I love it. It's still a much better park for pitching than hitting, but I can get on board with the Phillies here for sure. Mally's fine. He'll have some good starts, but against this lineup, if he doesn't have his best stuff, I think Philly could really get to him here. And they're a lineup with upside. They hit home runs. They can run. So I can get on board with Philly here. I don't think they're going to get much ownership at all. They're another stack. They're obviously not in Coors, but their lineup's good. It's expensive up top, but that's not really a concern today. I'm in on the Phillies with a lack of ownership there. Again, I don't think they look much different from some of the other stacks we talked about earlier on, but I do think their upside's real. San Francisco, I feel similarly about. Nola, I'm with you. Like the Rockies, while they have upside, especially in Coors, they still don't have a good lineup. Nola took advantage of that in his season debut. Now he's in a tougher spot in San Francisco during the day against a much better Giants lineup. So I could see either side in this game. Not sure I'll land on either side, but I think either side has upside. And I got no issues playing kind of, like I said, both sides of this game offensively. I have very minimal interest from it pitching-wise. So in that case, I think the offenses make some sense.
Yeah, I think Rafael Devers is by far my favorite bat from the Giants side. I think he's an elite one-off at 5,400 at first base. That's in that Freddie Freeman range. That's in the Christian Walker range. He hasn't had a great start to the year, but Nola struggles big time with power, fly balls, and hard hits to lefties. I mean, he's got a 62% hard hit rate to left-handed hitters. Devers, one of the best left-handed hitters in the game. Hits righties really good, 236 ISO, hits the ball in the air. Just all things point to Devers being a really good numbers play. Not to say it's going to work out, but that's a separator, right? That's a high leverage, high caliber one-off that's going to be 2% owned, right? So I think Devers is a really good play at first base. Luis Arias, who never strikes out, he's 3,900 at second base, where second base is a shitty position. Guys like Jose Altuve are going to be 40% owned because of that. You're saving $3,000 for a guy who never strikes out, always puts the ball in play, and when that happens, anything can happen, right? So a little two-man stack there. Devers, Arias, I think is a really sneaky little mini stack there. But yeah, I definitely like the Phillies quite a bit in terms of offense on the slate. Tyler Mahle, one of our worst ranked pitchers or on the slate for sure. Cardinals, Nationals. This is my favorite game of the slate. I love both sides of this. These are both in my top 3 or 4 for stacks in general. I'll throw it over to you right away and talk about it. Miles Mikolas on the mound. I've picked on this dude every time he's been on the mound last season. Didn't really work out too much, but I think that's going to be different here. This Cardinals offense has some young kids and some other kids, and they're cheap. I mean, they're going to be slightly owned, but it's nothing crazy. I mean, they're going to be like 10 to 15% owned guys. Weatherholt is having a hell of a season. Burleson, Gorman, those 3 guys would be kind of my first 3. Victor Scott has a ton of stolen base upside down there in the 9 hole. So I really like the Cardinals here, but more so I like the Nationals here. McGreevy struggles and is horrendous against lefties. Any pitcher that struggles against lefties, I'm going to be slamming the Nationals all year. Whenever they face a left-handed pitcher, it's death. But when they face a righty that struggles against lefties, they're a great stack here. Yeah, the weather's not great, but both of these bullpens are going to be 2 of the worst bullpens in the whole league. They have been in the limited sample, even ahead of the White Sox, the Rockies, these have been the 2 worst bullpens in the game. So I expect fireworks in this game. I think it's game stack viable with how weak offense is on the slate outside of Coors Field. But what do you see here, Cardinals and Nationals?
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. Offense here, no doubt. I like the Nats against McGreevy. I think that's a really good call. I like the Cards also. I was on them last night. They were pretty good. Jordan Walker continues to just rake this season. So he's a guy I definitely want if I'm stacking them. I think both these offenses look good. You got the Mikolas early revenge against the Cardinals, which is just an interesting dynamic here. Both sides of this game, I think, are wildly in play. I have no arguments with basically anything you said. I'm right in line there.
Absolutely. Let's go. Next game on the slate. This is going to be everybody's favorite pivot off of the Rockies or the Astros is going to be Atlanta. I get it. I just don't think Detmers is that bad. Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of strikeout ability, but I just don't think he's that bad of a pitcher. I mean, between this year and last year, he's at a 30% K rate to both sides of the plate. He's at almost a 50% ground ball rate. He keeps the ball on the ground. I mean, there's only a couple guys that really hit the ball in the air here for the Braves. And I mean, we have him as the second highest owned offense on the slate in our stack rankings from a combined ownership standpoint. You see it here, pushing 70% combined. I get it. They're solid. I mean, if I had to pick one guy, Drake Baldwin and Matt Olson, just because Baldwin's seen beach balls at the plate. Matt Olson's a pivot off of guys like Christian Walker at 10% ownership. So I don't mind it. But I think the sneaky spot in this one is the Angels. Angels have a ton of power to, yeah, they have strikeouts, but they're going to have games where Neto, Trout, Soler, Adele, these guys are going to hit bombs. And they're going to be 2% owned on this slate against Grant Holmes, who's going to be, especially in single entry stuff, the highest owned pitcher on the slate, right? So, and it's the best hitting environment on the slate outside of Coors Field. So I think the Angels are really sneaky. Braves on paper are a really good stack. I don't know. The Braves have burned me so much. I never get this team right. I don't think it's a spot for me to, on a team where I already don't get right, go where everybody else is going to go in Atlanta. I prefer the Angels side of this one, but what do you see here? Atlanta and the Braves, Atlanta and Angels.
I'm with you here all along again, right on the same path. I think the Braves obviously better offense than the Angels, and you'd rather, take their upside, but the field's there already. So I get your point on the Angels, especially with the fact that they're facing a guy in Holmes who is bad chalk. So yeah, I think both sides of this game wildly in play. Like, you could make a case for either side as one of the best stacks on the board for everything you mentioned. Atlanta is frustrating, but their lineup's still really good. If Detmers doesn't have his best stuff, then Atlanta could certainly win this slate. That brawl last night was pretty crazy. Soler just went nuts. Did you see Soriano throw that punch with the ball in his hand? That was just uncalled for. But yeah, always interesting when you see stuff like that. I think it's all about, I don't want to say all about the offense in this game, because I think Detmers and Holmes are two guys that are going to get ownership. This game is kind of apropos for this slate, just in the sense that, like, yeah, both pitchers are in play, but both offenses are definitely in play because of how this slate breaks down.
Yeah, this is definitely an MME game for sure. Braves are probably going to be a pretty popular stack in single entry stuff just because they're easy to afford and you can kind of do whatever you want. After that, Drake Baldwin, like I said, by far my favorite play. Probably one of my favorite plays in the slate, just from a catcher. The dude's mashing right now. He gets the platoon advantage. He hits the ball in the air. He's been absolutely raking. I mean, he's hitting for almost a 400 ISO and 36 at bats this year. So I like him. But yeah, I like offense here. I think both pitchers, if I had to lean one pitcher, I think Detmers at the lower ownership, just because Grant Holmes is going to get so steamed. I showed you when I filtered the high stakes ownership. I know a lot of these guys are playing like the 24-person queues for those mega Masters tickets. I mean, Holmes and Astros in that are going to be probably, of the 24 people, I'd be willing to say 18 to 20 of them have Holmes and Astros. I'm just gonna say that. So not to say it's bad, but I just play to win, and especially on
that
stuff
is,
like this. Yeah, I just think
awful.
I just think on a slate like this in single entry, everybody's playing the same damn team, because what do people do? They go to the Vegas totals, they go to the weather, they see weather sucks everywhere. We got Coors Field facing Michael Lorenzen, who got absolutely shellacked in his first start. Okay, well, let's just play the Astros. Let's play Grant Holmes, who's $6,700. Now I can play whatever spin-up arm I want, Cole Ragans or Sonny Gray, and now I still have a lot of money to spend for my 3-man or 2-man and one-off, right? So that's just the way the slate is. I'm not saying it's bad on paper. That is the best way to play this slate. Does that happen ever in baseball? Very rarely, right? So on a slate where it's early baseball, ownership's more condensed because people don't have as much time. They're at work. They're scheduling a quote unquote meeting to look at some content across the industry, build their teams quick before lunch, and hoping they make some money and win some Masters tickets and things like that. So that's where ownership's going to condense a lot more. And I'm fine taking underweight stance. And if they beat me, they beat me, right? I'll load up some Masters content or contest tomorrow and move on about my day, right? So I did want to mention that just from a roster construction standpoint and what ownership in the field and common roster construction are going to look like on a shortened slate, early start time where people have less time to kind of dive in and break it down as usual, right? When it's the typical 6:05 or 6:07 start time. Last game on this main slate here for DraftKings, Diamondbacks and the Mets up in Citi Field. Another shitty park for hitting in general, and the weather's not great. More same stuff we said the whole slate here. D-backs do have upside, in my opinion here. David Peterson, solid arm in general. It's only mid-40s in this game, but there is wind blowing out at least, which can help a little bit. Ketel Marte, Carroll, Perdomo, Moreno, those four are going to be great plays on any slate. The rest of the lineup is atrocious. Nolan Arenado needs a walker to get to the stadium. You got some guys at the back half there that need name tags for most people to recognize them. Those top four, I think are playable on any slate, especially against a lefty here, which Marte is fine. Carroll's one of the better lefty hitters in the game. Perdomo's fine. Moreno mashes lefties. So I don't hate those guys. On the Mets side, Reed Nelson, I think he's going to get ownership just based on what projections show when people are going to the Astros. But I still think he's a solid enough arm. He's got good pitching weather. The Mets offense on paper is really good. I don't love either side of this game for offense here. But the Mets do rank better in terms of offense, just looking at our rankings, because Nelson sitting down at 23 overall. But what do you see here to round us out?
Yeah, Nelson does not look great. Did not look great to start the season. I'm a believer in his talent. Like, just because of how this slate breaks down and his price tag, I think he's in play. I don't love the Mets against him. Their lineup takes a big hit without Soto. Obviously, they added some pieces, so wouldn't be shocked if they got to Nelson here, but they don't like stand out to me Arizona, you mentioned it, the top 4 or 5 with Del Castillo's in there, who I like. Looks good, but he's also a catcher like Moreno, so a little bit harder to stack them. I respect Peterson. Like, I think he's got decent enough arm talent. 7K is a pretty good tag for him. I don't really love either side of this game. I'm kind of with you. Like, just another game that falls in line with the theme of I could play either pitcher, I could play either offense, don't love either. Which why like all the ownership's going to flood to Houston because everyone feels that way. There is no other offense that stands out other than Houston and to a tiny extent Colorado.
It's Houston, Colorado, and Atlanta are the 3 spots that everyone's going to play with. Like I said, Holmes, Reagans, Sonny Gray, for the most part. Those three pitchers and those 3 offenses. I mean, call it a 6-pack and send it by the wayside, right? Because I'm going to be going for a 12-pack up at the top of the leaderboard overall on this slate. But Peterson is really, really good against lefties and not great against righties. So guys like Ketel Marte and Perdomo, who are switch hitters, are fine, obviously, and they're still in the base upside, and Moreno. So I like that 1-3-4 stack. Carroll, if you want to just fly off the board because he can hit left-handers no matter what. But really, Marte, Perdomo, and Moreno, I think, are pretty sneaky. I'm not going to 5-stack the D-backs here because the Mets bullpen is good. But I do think on a starved slate for offense, high-caliber one-offs like that are in the same price points as the Astros, I think are interesting there. But let's round up the slate here, Matt. We're sitting right at an hour, so we did pretty good time here for 10 games. We went in depth with roster construction, game theory, and stuff like that. Go ahead and give your favorite pitching pairing, and then your favorite stack, your favorite sneaky stack, and a home run call for the people to close us out.
All right, I'm gonna say my favorite. This is tough. Man, my favorite pitcher pairing, I guess we'll go with Gore and I'm with you on the Sonny Gray ownership, so I'm not going to say him, although he's obviously wildly in play. I'll go Gore and Reagans, but that's fluid, not necessarily where I'm going to land, but that's what I like right now. Gore and Reagans. I'm going to say my favorite stack on the board. It's hard to say any stack but Houston as far as just overall favorite stack. My favorite lower owned stack, which could be basically anyone else. Let's go with, I kind of like your Brewers call. If we're going like real low owned, the value. You know what? I'm going to take the other side of it. I'm going to go with the Angels.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, I like both the Angels and the Brewers side of this. After refreshing this, my favorite, I'm going to go with Gore. I'm doubling down with you on Gore. I like Gore a lot here today. I'm going to go Sean Burke as a direct pivot right off of Grant Holmes. The Orioles only have 3 lefties in their lineup today, which I like a lot. The weather sucks there. The wind's blowing in at almost 20 miles an hour from right center field. I think Sean Burke, I think he's pretty interesting. More are going to be on the Orioles side just because offense is pretty weak in general. This could obviously bite me in the ass, and the Orioles could still get there along with Burke just when the bullpen comes in. I don't think Burke's going to throw a complete game shutout or anything like that. But I think at 6,500, pivot off of Holmes, I won't be shocked to see Burke outscore Holmes in a pretty big fashion here with the Orioles, who have been cold at the plate. So I like Burke and Mackenzie Gore. From an offensive perspective, I'm going to go to the Dodgers. I don't think anyone's going to the Dodgers. It's the best offense in baseball. Obviously, they're going for the 3-peat at the World Series. Dylan Cease is a quality arm to start. Bullpen's not great behind Blue Jays, and Cease can always blow up. Yeah, it sucks not having Ohtani, but makes the stack much more affordable when you need some salary somewhere as well. So I really like the Dodgers and the Brewers. I'm with you there. So I like the Dodgers and the Brewers. My home run call, though, for the people, I'll throw it to you. Do you have a home run call while I kind of find one here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the guy that homered yesterday that just mashes lefties. Give me Ozzie Albies.
Ozzie Albies. That's a really good play there. I think I'm gonna go to the Giants and go to a guy who hasn't been off to a great start. I'm gonna go to Rafael Devers.
Love that.
just a lefty masher, one off. Nobody's going to play. Nola struggles big time against lefties. I think Devers gets his first here and hits one over the wall in this daytime where the park does play more hitter friendly than pitcher friendly compared to the usual. That's all 10 games. Talked pitching, talked hitting, broke it all down, gave you some synopsis at the end. Slate does lock in about an hour, so make sure you do get your teams in. And obviously, there's only one game that locks at that first time window, the Guardians and the Royals, but one pitcher for sure that you're going to want to play in that game in Reagan. So make sure you do get your lineups in and make sure you're adjusting your teams throughout the slate. Anytime we have day baseball like this with a 3 or 4 hour time window from the start, lineups get confirmed and get thrown in there. So make sure you're always checking, make sure all your guys are in there. If you're not a member yet and you want to head over, check out our Masters content and everything like that. 5 days for $19, code SHIP19 as you see there up on the screen. But if you want even more, just go over to shipitnation.com. You got the Master Special here, $349, covers you for the entire PGA season along with the optimizer. But better yet, join the nation if you're just an MLB guy. Go to Single Sport, go to MLB plus an optimizer. You cannot even get this at sabersim.com. This is only offered to us with being a partner over there. 150 lineups, late swap, all of our content for MLB, $49 a month. Can't beat it across the industry. If you go out to the annual package, build at $25 a month, it comes down to. And if you want access to everything, like I talked about, best value, $139 a month right now for optimizer, all our content, all our sports. You have it. We got you covered at shipitnation.com. For Matt, I'm Nades. Good luck today, in those contests. Hope to see the Ship It Nation logos at the top of the leaderboards. We're out here.